Hey everybody, and welcome to today's video where we're going to create a 3D model of a fire pit. Namely, it's called a Wido round steel fire pit with copper effect bowl. So if we take a look at this fire pit, it actually looks really cool and it has a few different elements to it. So before we actually start any of the modeling, let's break this thing down into components. So the first thing that we can see that this thing over here is made out of roughly about 5 components. One is the leg that's basically copied around. Then you have the second type of cylinder going around it. Then you have this ornamental top. We have this inner bowl here that we can probably see better over here. There we have the inner bowl. We have some elements on the inside, and then we have the dome for this thing, which is over here, and that thing is created with a net or some sort of a weaving of the wire. So let's start making this thing. Now before I actually start modeling, I can see over here that the only thing that I have so far is these two sizes, and that is the diameter and the height of this thing. Take into account that this height is not the height with the dome, but just up to here. So let's start with this then. I'm going to move this to the side, and I'm going to start off by creating a cylinder and just putting it in here and giving it its radius and the height. So for the diameter, it's 80 centimeters, so I'm going to put in a radius of 40. And for the height, we have 35 centimeters, like this. I'm going to put the height to 1, and more or less, this is going to be our placeholder for this thing. I'm going to put it to 0, 0, 0, like this. And now from here, we can start modeling this thing. I'm going to start off by creating the top portion over here, so this ornamental piece. And I'm going to show you a way that you can create details like this that are interwoven. That's actually really easy to create. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to use this thing. I'm actually going to leave it like this so I can use it later on. So I'm going to hold down Shift and create a copy of this. All right, now I'm going to hide this, but before I do that, I'm just going to make this thing a bit smaller, like this, and snap it down to size over here. There we go. I'm going to hide this, use it later on. And now increase the type of sides. So let's go with 64. This should be enough. And put an edit poly on top of this. So Alt X to go back to seeing it like this. Now in here, all I'm going to do is just inset one time, like this, and select one of the edges. Control or Alt R to or Control R to make the just hit the ring, control click on the polygon, and invert this selection. So Control I and delete. So we're left with just this thing. All right. Now, how do we create this woven effect by having something like this? Well, it's actually not that hard. All you will need to do is, first of all, we're going to need some more geometry in here. So let's go in, create or select one of these. So ring selection, hit connect, and let's give it a couple of connections. Maybe like this or 4 that would work. All right, awesome. Now, the way that you would create a pattern like this is one of 2 ways. The first one, which is my favorite one when you're creating something like this, is with your edge selection, you just press Control A to select everything in your scene or all the edges on that selection. Then you go over to Connect and Settings, click over here, one segment, and this will give you a woven pattern like this. So click OK, but now we still have the original one, so we want to get rid of that. So what we do is Control I again and Control Backspace. That will remove the original one. So this is what we have left over. Now this is the one way to create this, but I'm going to go back and show you another way. Actually, I'm going to make this thing with 3 like this. All right. And okay, so this is a connection 3. Okay. So now the second way is if you go down into your modeling ribbon, polygon modeling, and you open up the generate topology. Now in here you have an option which you can choose, and that is you just select one of these guys and you just click on this pattern over here which says edge direction, but you need to have one of these edges selected. So if I click edge direction over here, it's going to give me that same look that we had previously. But if you have a selection like this, it's going to give you more or less the same thing. There we go. So that's the two ways that you can create a pattern like this. Looking at this thing and basically comparing it with what we have here, it's very close, although from what I can notice here, these things are a lot bigger. So which means that if I want to create the same thing, I would just have to go in and do it with 2 connections in the middle. But for now, my idea here was to show you how to create something like this. So we'll just continue on forward with this. Now, this thing has these protrusions in here, or these ridges. So how do we add those? Well, again, for those, what I'm going to do is select one of these guys. Again, make a ring selection and then loop it. So that will make sure that I select everything. But before actually adding those details, what I'm going to do is just create or select my border. Hold down Shift, just extrude one edge over here and one on this side. So these are the borders on the other side. That's going to limit how far that effect is going to go. So again, select all of my edges, Control click, or just click on the border, Alt selection on the two borders on the edge like this, or better yet, let's just create it like this. Select this and this, grow it once, grow it twice, just once. Control I. There we go. We have just the middle one selected. Now for this, just hit the extrude. There you go. I have a height of, well, you can set anything you want, but let's try 0.5. And this width will control how far you get these protrusions to go in. So for me, I think it's, let's try to 0.1 and click OK. So what we're left is this sort of a design. All right, and it's pretty similar to what I'm seeing here in the image. Although, if we are to use a turbo smooth on top of this, it's going to make this thing a lot smoother, like this, but it's going to lose those hard edges. If we want to add in those hard edges, what we can do is select everything. For them, just go down to the smoothing groups and put them maybe like 30 on the edge, auto smooth. Let's see if this thing is going to work with 30. Use smoothing groups. Okay, this is going to give me more geometry like this, and another turbo smooth on top of this. And just like that, we got this sort of a look, which again, like I said, it's similar to what we have in our reference, but since our reference has these things to be bigger, all you have to do is when you're creating the pattern, just make sure you have 2 connections instead of 3 like I did. And we got this by just stacking the turbo smooths, where one of these has the turbo smoothing option turned on and the second one doesn't have it. So I'm going to delete them both and continue modeling this thing just so we can finish it off. All right, so really simple. Let's just hold down Shift, drag this thing down, and well, we can just bridge it together. There we go, like this. Let's select the edges on the corners and give them a small bevel, just so they're not so sharp, or just chamfer them like this. Give it a few segments. Okay, there we go. 2, chamfer smooth, smooth, chamfers only. Okay. So like this, we have our top side of our view, the top side of our fire pit, so we can continue modeling the rest. So let's move this thing to the side, and let's move on. Now I'm going to create the inner portion of this, which is more or less it's going to be very simple to create. So I'm going to start doing this thing. We can see that this bowl has the same circumference as the inner portion here, but it's a bit lower from it. Now, what we can do is we can use what we have over here. So for that, what I'm going to do is just select one of these edges from it, and then hit a create shape out of it, like this. So make it linear, smooth doesn't really matter for now. Click OK. All right. Now select that shape that we just created, like this, and put an edit poly on top of it. This should cap that thing off, like that. Now I do know that I want to have this thing a bit lower, maybe like this. So we have that place where the lid would go. All right, awesome. So select this, hit it with the inset, like this. And we have that point where we want to have that dip for this thing. Now, if we're creating this thing as dip, the easiest thing that we could do is I'm going to isolate this like this. And over here, what I want to do is I want to create a sphere. Now this sphere will start from here and go all the way up to maybe like this. And what I want to do is also make sure that I have 64 sides. So it's the same amount of sides as we already have on this. And for it, what I'm going to do is, again, just select half of it. Edit poly. Select the top half and delete it, because we don't really need it. We only need the bottom here. And if I take a look at this thing, I can see that the bottom, where it actually comes to the bare bottom, will be flat. So this means that while I'm here and cutting this thing up, I can select this portion here, select the border, and just so I can see it better, I'm going to flip the normals. So select everything and hit on the flip normals like this. So now here with this thing selected, what I can do to connect both of these is just click on one of these edges here, hold on Alt, select one on the other side, and bridge these two together. This is going to fill it up like this. And since we do want to have some sort of a sharper corner down there, what I'm going to do is with these selected, actually not without selecting these, I'm going to deselect these like that, and in here add a small inset, a very small inset, just so we get one extra edge in there. Let's try like this. One more edge. Let's select it like this. One more edge with the turbo smooth is going to work just fine. So let's try it like this. There we go. So we have one more over there. And now we just want to move this thing up so it's to about there. And I know from what I can see that this thing is not a full sphere, but it's actually squished. So we can just scale this thing up until we get it to a point where we actually like it, or we think it's right, which I think is about here. All right, so now what we have left over is these two elements, which are separate. So I want to attach them both like this. And this is what I have left over. So now I'm going to select this edge and just hit the bridge. Oh, not like that. Let's try it like this. Hopefully it's not going to do it. All right, there we go. So bridge with the two borders. And now I have this small edge over here, but it's actually all right. I don't have to remove any of the elements here. or any of the edges, because it does have a sort of a chamfered edge in here, which is going to be a bit rounder. So for that, just so I can use the same thing, I'm going to do is add in one more edge in here with the shift holding down shift. There we go, like this. And what we are left over is something what we are seeing in here. So if I put a turbo smooth on top of this, this is going to smooth it up. But before I do that, I'm just going to hold shift one more time on the edge, pull it downwards once, and give this thing a bit of a chamfer as well. So let's make it like this. There we go. All right, so turbo smooth on top of this now will give me this sort of a look, which is more or less what I'm seeing on this thing. And this is the look that I'm going for. So let's move this thing to the side, anti-isolate, and we have both of these. Again, I'm going to put a turbo smooth now back on this. So by smoothing group, let's try with 1, and that's going to work. All right, so let's select both of these, give them a neutral color. We know we've worked on them, so let's move on and create the rest. And while I'm here, I'm actually going to go and create the grills as well, because from what I can see over here, the grills are going to be pretty simple to create. So let's move this into the side again. And I know that there are 2 grills. One, I'm guessing, is to hold down the charcoal, and the second one is to hold down the meat. So let's isolate this. And for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reuse the already existing geometry to help me out with that. Now for the charcoal one, I'm going to select this edge on the bottom here. And again, just hit on create shape like this. Linear is fine. And then I'm going to just select this like that. And again, I'm going to use edit poly. That's going to create this sort of a look. And in here, I'm going to select all of these guys. But before we do that, though, let's try like this. Let's hit a small inset, just so I can get some more better look at the geometry, like this. That's going to work. Now, with this selected, there we go. Select the inner piece and delete. What I have left is this. Now for this, we're going to use the same thing that we used previously. So control click on edge to make this selection turned over there. Now select one on the bottom here, one over here, and just bridge it together like this. That's going to give me this sort of a look where we have these bars going across. Now in my case, I think that it's going to be way too many for this, but it's okay for now. I probably could just go in and decrease the number of sides on this thing. That's going to decrease the number of bars I have, but for now it's actually okay. So I'm going to delete the border here, and what I'm left is with this thing. Now hit one of these edges, Alt R to make a ring selection. I'm going to deselect these 2 or these 3 on the edge and these 3 on this edge. So from what I have in here, I can just create a shape. Linear, that's okay. And just create one more linear shape from over here. And that's all I actually need out of this thing. So I can delete it. And what I'm left with is these lines or these splines that we just created. So for this, I'm going to make them renderable, make them a lot smaller, maybe like 0.2, maybe 0.3, like this. The one on the corner, again, same thing, make it renderable, make it a 0.5, like this, and that's going to work. So by making the border one bigger, it looks like these smaller ones have been welded inside it. So you can go with a look like this, or if you prefer, you can just select this and move it up a bit, and then extend these guys over, because from what I can see in my reference image, they do look like that. So these guys are actually extended and they're welded on top of this wire. So if you want to have that look, all you have to do is just go in and move these things on the z-axis like that. Then from the top side, just go in, select all of these vertices, move them over like this, select the other ones, move these over like this, and you just got that same look that we see over here in our model. So select them, give them a gray color as well. All right, so we have that thing on the bottom. We can do the same thing for the ones on the top. Just so I don't have to recreate the whole thing, I'm just going to select it, hold down Shift and drag it upwards like that. And let's see if we can just scale this thing to size. There we go. Center to object. Yeah, this is going to stretch it a bit, so not the ideal. So if we want to have an ideal size for this, what we would do is just do the same thing again on this portion, and we should get the ideal look. But for now, I'm actually going to delete this. I don't like having things that don't look right. All right, so we have the inner portion here. We have the bars for the charcoal. If you follow the same thing, you can do this one on the top here as well. We don't have to do it on camera. And let's proceed with creating the rest of this model. Close this, and let's go. And actually, I just noticed that we've been going on for over 20 minutes now. So let's break this down into a second video where we're going to finish off the rest of these elements for this model. And so far, I hope you guys had fun. You managed to learn something new from this video. If you'd like to support me, you can click the join button, and the direct links will be in the description below. And the most helpful thing you can do is always just click the like and subscribe buttons and comment on the videos below. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all in this next video where we're gonna finish off this model. Right? Bye-bye.